So, good morning, everyone. Today, we're going to talk about the secrets of money manifestation, and it's it's not as hard as you think it is. So, let me show you this, and hopefully, this will work. I tried it a couple of times, and once in a while, there's an ad that pops up. So, we'll get past that.
Money. Money makes the world go round, the world go round, the world go round. Money makes the world go round, it makes the world go round. A mark, a yen, a buck, or a pound, a mark, or a pound, a buck, or a pound is all that makes the world go round. That clinking, clanking sound, it makes the world go round. Money, 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 money. If you happen to be rich and you feel like a nice entertainment, you can pay for a gay escapade. If you happen to be rich and alone and you need a companion, you can ring ting-a-ling for some mate. If you happen to be rich and you find you are left by your lover and you moan and you groan quite a lot, you can take it on the chin, call a cab and begin to recover on your 14-carat yacht. What? Money makes the world go round, the world go round, the world go round. Money makes us go round the flat, we both are sure on being poor. Money, 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 money.
So, I was at a class, come on, okay, there we go. I was in a class uh, of Mary Morrissey's, who's another great speaker. And she talked about in the class that the instructor came out and opened his wallet and pulled out an enormous wad of bills. And he goes, I love money. And he starts kissing it and he starts rubbing it on his cheek. And he's just totally enamored. And she was taken aback by that. And she thought, this kind of very uncomfortable with the whole thing. And then he puts the money back in his wallet and he said, I'm sure a lot of you were very uncomfortable with that. Just like some people may not have liked this video I just showed. That's from the movie Cabaret. Um, Joel Grey is the father of Jennifer Grey from Dirty Dancing. Anyway, um, the he says, "What if I brought out my grandson and kissed him and hugged him? You would have a totally different reaction." And the point he was trying to make is you can't be repulsed by one thing and love something else. And if you're repulsed by the thought of him loving money, you're saying that's something I don't want. And you're thereby rejecting the thought of acquiring money. So the history of money is very simple. Let's say there's a cattle rancher and a sheep herder, and the the cattle rancher says to the sheep herder, "I'll trade you some beef for wool." And the sheep herder says, "I'll do that deal." Then a month goes by, and the cattle rancher says, "I need more wool. Do you want to trade?" And the sheep herder says, "No, I still have lots of beef left over. I don't need any more." So the cattle rancher says, "I'll give you an IOU. Whenever you need more beef, give me the wool now. Whenever you need more beef, you can come and get it with the IOU. And the sheep herder agrees. So now the sheep herder wants to build a fence to contain his sheep. And he said, I'll trade you wool for lumber. And the lumberyard says, no, thanks. I don't need any wool. I work indoors. I don't need to, I stay warm here. And so the sheep herder says, I have this IOU for beef. I'll trade you that for for lumber. And the lumberyard says, now that I can use. I can use beef. So all those bills in your wallet, they're IOUs. It used to be money was made out of gold and silver, but that got to be too expensive, so they created bills. And the bills in your wallet are IOUs, and that's kind of how money has evolved. So what do all realtors want? You want to earn more money. You want the business to be easier. You want money to flow to you continuously. You're tired of these sporadic commissions. You want your savings and equities to grow into a healthy nest egg. So, why does money come easily to some and not to others? You work hard and have little to show for it. What are you doing wrong? It's not in the doing, it's in the thinking. So, here's your first secret: your beliefs are misaligned. How do you feel about your money situation? Do you feel you have an abundance of money, or do you feel a lack of money? What do you identify with right now? You cannot attract abundance with a poverty mindset. It's just not possible. So, what is your first recollection of money? I can tell you mine. I We were living in Switzerland, and I was going to the local village school, and we went on a field trip. We took a bus across to the Alps, and we went up into the mountains and hiked around. And my mother had given me 5 francs, which back then was about $1.25. Today, 1 franc is more than $1. But so they gave me 5 francs, and I bought a souvenir hat, and I bought a souvenir pipe, a little plastic toy pipe, and I bought a candy bar, and I came home and I showed my mother. And she turned to the woman standing next to her and she goes, typical Roger, money burns a hole in his pocket. He can't save it. And I was confused because she handed it to me and says, here's some spending money. And then she reacted that when I spent it, that wasn't the intent of the money. So these are confusing messages that we grow up with. What were you told about money? We're not one of the rich people. Money doesn't grow on trees. You work hard to earn a fair living. Rich people are crooks. More money means higher taxes. So, like, you don't want to earn more money because then you'll pay more in taxes. My accountant says it's good to pay taxes. It means you came out ahead. Money don't buy you happiness. That's a common one. We have enough to get by. That, in fact, is a very selfish statement. Because if you had more money, what could you do to help others? What could you do for your family? What could you do for your kids? The list goes on of all these common things we grew up with. So how was money treated in your home when you were growing up? Who paid the bills? My parents, I'm from my father's second marriage, And my parents had three sets of books. My mother had her sets of books, my father had his sets of books, and they had a joint set of books. And when they paid bills, they would sit there and argue whose account the money came from to pay that particular bill. And if I walked into the room, the book's closed, and they go play outside. They didn't want me around to teach me anything about money. Did you get an allowance? My allowance came on Friday evening, and they brought me the money and they brought me my piggy bank. And they said, now here's your allowance, put it in the piggy bank. I never got to spend it. They said, oh, we're teaching you how to save. I said, no, you're keeping me from my money. Did they teach you the value of money? What was said was they paid the bills. These people are crooks. We shouldn't have to be paying this much. Was there a budget? Were there arguments? Was there frivolous spending? I love this story. So, a friend of mine told me when he got married, his wife made a ham dinner. And you can see how the top of the ham is round. And she would cut that section off and throw it in the trash. And he said, that's perfectly good. Why are you throwing it out? She said, my mom made the best ham dinners, and this is how she made ham dinners. I do what I was taught. So they were visiting his in laws, and he asked his mother in law, what, why are you cutting off the round part of the ham? And she said, that's how I was taught to make ham. And if if my mother made a good ham and that's how she did it, that's how I do it. So one day grandma came to visit and he said to grandma, why do you cut the round part of the ham off? And she said, because otherwise it wouldn't fit in my pan. And see, that's how the same way money, thoughts, and beliefs get transferred from generation to generation. And until you take control of your thoughts, nothing will change because you're on automatic drive. So the second secret is understanding money. Money is the exchange of energy for action. It reflects the idea that money represents value created through effort. It is connection between energy, action, and financial success. Understanding this concept can shift your perspective on money and productivity. Bob Proctor, my mentor, says money is a reflection of your mindset and beliefs about wealth. It flows to those who are open to receiving and giving. That's what I said earlier. If you have a poverty mindset, you cannot attract money. You need to have a wealth mindset. Your thoughts and feelings about money shape your financial reality. This is this is law. This is universal law. Abundance is a state of mind. Focus on what you want, not on what you lack. That is a huge key point. You know, we drive, we go, God, if I had the money, I would buy this. And if I had the money, I could pay off that bill. Well, you are talking in lack terms. Financial success requires taking action and being persistent. Think and Grow Rich has an entire chapter on persistence. Bob Proctor read that chapter out loud every day for a month, every year. Gratitude for what you have attracts more wealth in your life. Every morning, I have a gratitude journal, and every morning, I write out 10 things that I'm grateful for, of which have occurred, five that I want to have occurred, and I write them as if they've already manifested. But I write out my gratitudes every day. Um, and here's where the expression, the pen is mightier than the sword, is because what you handwrite goes into your subconscious mind deeper and faster than any other means. Typing is just mechanical. Wealth is a result of thinking. Money comes from the right mindset and creative thought. Wallace D. Waddle. Abundance is natural. There is enough wealth for everyone. It's about tapping into it. We think that if we take and receive money, we're taking it from somebody else. And that is not true. There is an abundance of wealth. We just need to go for it. We were always taught growing up, take a piece of pie and leave some for the others. Well, it doesn't apply to money. Act with purpose. Take deliberate actions towards your financial goals to attract wealth. It's not going to come by sitting around. You need to take action. Gratitude, again, with the gratitude, attracts more. Being thankful for what you have opens doors to receiving more. You know, if you don't know what to be grateful for, be grateful that you woke up this morning. Be grateful that the sun is shining. I'm constantly throughout the day saying thank you. And my expression is we say I'm sorry more than we say thank you. But, the light stayed green for me. Thank you. I got a parking spot in front of where I have to be. Thank you. This car let me in to traffic. Thank you. Service creates value. Wealth is earned by providing value and servicing others effectively. The attraction of money is not dependent on a person's intelligence, location, gender, size, physical ability. Fortune gravitates to the people whose minds have been prepared to attract them. Plain and simple. You don't work for money. So many people say, well, I have to earn money. I'm going to go to work. You don't work for money. You work for satisfaction. If you love what you do, the money comes. So, what is money? A penny found on the street is money. The other day, I've had a penny right by my car and I picked it up and it was sticky and disgusting. And I put it on the floor mat. And when I got home, I washed it. But it's money. You can't say, oh, I don't want pennies. I only want $100 bills. Money is money. And if you don't like a penny, how can you like $100 bill? You have to love it all. The universe is not selective. It's all or nothing. A discount coupon for something you need to buy is money. An exchange of something for what you own for something you need is like money. A bonus for going above and beyond. Somebody giving you a gift. That's money. They spent money for that gift and they're giving it to you. Your income, obviously, a dividend, residual income, someone treating you to something special is money. I worked with a guy, and one day a loan officer came in and said, Tom, how about if I take you to lunch? And Tom said, gee, I'd love to, but I can't. Can I have the money instead? And I had to laugh at him, but I realized The loan officer was offering him a gift. He wanted in a different format. The loan officer didn't give him the money, but still. So, secret number three, follow the law. And we're talking the law of the universe. These are unbreakable laws. There's the law of vibration. Everything in the universe has a frequency and a vibration. Nothing ever stands still, as everything is always being pushed away or pulled towards something. Furthermore, an item of similar vibrations are attracted to each other. So if you have a lack mindset, you're pushing away money. If you have a wealth mindset, you're attracting money. To use this law to manifest your desire, you must match your vibration with that of what you want. A sub-law of the law of vibration is the law of attraction, which states we attract into our lives whatever we are focused on. This law uses the power of the mind to translate whatever is in our thoughts and materialize them into reality. So let these lines represent lines of vibration. Each line is connected to the one above and below, like a rainbow. They're all connected. And lines of vibration is like frequency. So if I want to call you on the phone, I need your frequency, which is your phone number. If I'm off by one digit, I will not get you. So there's two things you need to know to create time and money freedom. You need to know where you are and you need to know where you're going. It's that simple. So where you're going is the goal you're trying to achieve. So you'd say, I'm going to prospect for listings. But your habitual behavior says, as soon as I file all the papers on my desk, I like leaving a clean desk when I go out. I'm going to preview properties for my clients. But then your habitual behavior kicks in and says, as soon as I create a cool logo, I'm going to, as soon as, as soon as, as soon as. And before you know it, the goal evaporates. The reason being is you and your thoughts are on the lower frequency. Your goal is on a higher frequency. You need to be up here with your thoughts on the frequency of your goal. And you must be totally immersed in that vibration of your goal. And how do you get there? You get there by becoming emotionally involved. For example, I used to do the sergeant's program. I don't know if they're still around, but every morning at 6 o'clock, you met in a park with a drill sergeant from 6 to 7, and you did an hour of calisthenics. Wednesdays was run day. You ran the entire hour. I did not enjoy run day, but I wanted a new 7 Series BMW. And I test drove one. And when I was running, I was driving that BMW. I could feel the steering wheel. I could see over the hood. And before you knew it, the hour was up because my mind wasn't running. My mind was driving. So you become emotionally involved by getting into what it feels like to have what you want. If you want a sports car, go test drive it. If you want an expensive jewelry, go look at it. Try it on. You want an exotic trip, plan it. You're into boating, go to the boat dealership. and walk on the boat, sit at the helm, see what it feels like to be captain of your ship. You want expensive clothes? Go and try it on. Feel what those clothes feel like on your body and what those shoes feel like when you walk around. And what you say is not, gee, it'd be nice if I could afford this. No, you say, I like this. This is me. But you know what? I choose not to buy it today because you're telling your mind, I can have this, but I choose not to have it today. If you want money, get a thick wad of money, wrap $100 bill on the outside, and put it in your pocket. And every time you put your hand in your pocket, you can feel what it's like to be rich. Feeling is the secret. Your attitude is a combination of your thoughts, your feelings, and your actions. And when all three of these are in alignment with one another, that's how you get to your goal. You can have thoughts of, I'm going to sell 5 houses this weekend, but you're not feeling it. And yes, you're taking the action. You're doing open houses. You're calling people and all of that, but you're not feeling it. You will not achieve your goal. All three of these need to be in alignment. And some people refer to this state as your personality because that's who you are. Secret number 4, there is a law of compensation. The law of compensation says that the amount of money you earn will always be an exact ratio to the need for what you do, your ability to do it, and the difficulty there is in replacing you. And the trick to making this law work for you is to focus on your ability to do it. Because if you keep improving every day at your tasks, become a better negotiator, become a better objection handler, become better at marketing, become better at closing. The better you become, there will always be a need for what you do, and it will be really hard to replace you. And your competition will notice. And so if your boss doesn't appreciate you, competition will welcome you with open arms. Focus on your ability to do it every day. So there's 3 ways you make money, and only 3 ways. Time for money. That's where you go to work at 8 in the morning and you come home at 5, and at the end of the month or twice a month, they give you a paycheck. You're exchanging your time for money. The second one is money for money. This is where you invest money in real estate, stock market, startup ventures, whatever it is. You're having your money create money for you. The last one is multiple sources of income. And when you have multiple sources of income, money comes to you on a continuous basis from multiple sources. Now, here's the interesting thing. 94% of the population exchange time for money. Only 3% exchange money for money, and 3% have multiple sources of income. This is your Warren Buffett's, your Richard Branson's, They all have multiple sources of income. When one industry slows down, the other one picks up, and they're constantly making money. And alarming, and this is law. You cannot, any government that goes in and says, we're going to change this, it, the law brings it back to these numbers. 80% of the money is made to the people that have multiple sources of income. You can start here with your downline, with having a property management company on the side, having a um, junk removal business on the side, having a whatever. But there's ways to have multiple sources of income. But the politicians all say we're going to tax the 1%. It's not going to change these numbers. The universal law of compensation is universal. You can't break it. All that money flows to your bank, whether you're awake or asleep. Isn't that nice? You wake up in the morning and there's more money in the account in your bank. Wallace D. Wattles says, you don't get rich by doing certain things. You get rich by doing things a certain way. To become a millionaire, you must act like a millionaire. You must think like a millionaire. You must talk like a millionaire. You must walk like a millionaire. You must dress like a millionaire. You must believe you are a millionaire long before you are a millionaire. Because whatever your mind can conceive, you can achieve. Bob Proctor says, if you can see it in your mind, you can hold it in your hand. But if you don't believe any of these statements here, it's not going to happen. Secret number 5 is the right to be rich. Whatever may be said in praise of poverty, the fact remains that it is not possible to live in a complete or successful life unless one is rich. It's just not possible. To be really rich does not mean to be satisfied or content with a little. Now, these statements might be uncomfortable for some, but the fact of the matter is, we live in a society that's totally governed by money. And what's the expression? He who has the money makes the rules. The purpose of nature is the advancement and development of life. And you need money to do that. You want an education, you got to pay for college. The reason you earned the amount of money you did all last year is because you don't believe yourself capable nor deserving of earning that amount or more monthly. Warren Buffett's in real estate. Look what he makes every month. Napoleon Hill asked Andrew Carnegie, and remember, Andrew Carnegie was the first billionaire. Why is it that you have such tremendous wealth when others who work very hard don't have any? And Carnegie's response was, I demand riches in definite terms. Somebody's mic is on. Can you check your mic, please? I have definite plan for acquiring riches. I'm engaged in carrying out my plan, and I am giving an equivalent in useful services of the value of the riches I demand. Now let's look at this statement. He says, I demand riches in definite terms. He's not saying I want millions upon millions. He's not saying I want lots of money. He has a definite term. You should have a definite term. By the end of this year, I want to have earned, I will have earned $500,000. That's a definite riches in definite terms. I have a definite plan for acquiring riches. So he's not saying, you know, I'm going to fly by the seat of my pants and see what happens. He has written out a plan how that money is going to come to him. And the key thing is the plan doesn't have to be a good plan. It has to be a plan and you implement it immediately, whether it's good or not. Because trying to make it perfect is impossible and it's at the same time procrastination. You create a plan and you jump into it. And when you do that, you can adjust the plan as you go along to make it perfect. But you won't know all the nuances until you're deep into the action to get the riches you want. He goes on to say, I'm engaged in carrying out my plan. So every day he works his plan. And lastly, he says, I am giving an equivalent in useful services of the value of the riches I demand. In other words, he's not expecting the money without giving something in return of equal value. You know, you'll never hit the jackpot of the Powerball because you're not giving anything in return. You need to give something of equivalent value in return. So, what do these four companies have in common? They all had founders who had a burning desire to build a real estate empire. They weren't looking at selling 10 houses this year. They weren't looking at having an office. They were looking to an empire. They saw the empire the day they set out to start their company. They think differently from you and I. Faith is the ability to see the invincible, to believe in the incredible, and that will permit us to receive what the masses call the impossible. I love this quote. Faith is the ability to see the invisible, to believe in the incredible, and that will permit us to receive what the masses call the impossible. Let your imagination go. Start fantasizing on what you want. That's why you were given an imagination. Although we grew up with our parents and teachers saying, stop imagining things and pay attention. No, your imagination is powerful. Success is faith expressed in action. Number 6, the greatest secret of all. How is not important. Let me say that again. The how is not important. We were taught growing up by our families, by our teachers, that if you don't know how to do something, you'll never be able to do it. I always find it interesting how many economics professors are multimillionaires. They supposedly know how to do it, but they're not. The Wright brothers were bicycle mechanics. Their father was going to have them committed because if God wanted us to fly, they would have given us wings. And yet they created flight. Sir Edmund Hillary had no maps, no guides, and yet he was the first to stand on top of the world. He conquered Mount Everest. And you see, it's the burning desire that got him up there. It took him 3 attempts. And it wasn't until he stood on top of the world that he could look down and said, that's how you do it. You come up that way. That's the path to the top. And Stephen Jobs says you cannot connect the dots looking backwards. You, I'm sorry, I have it backwards. You cannot connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect the dots looking back. The how is not important. Andrew Carnegie, with very little schooling and no money, became the first billionaire. He was in the steel industry. He knew nothing about the steel industry, and yet he was a billionaire because he knew how to surround himself with people that knew the steel industry. Thomas Edison was sent home from school by his teachers with a note telling his mother that he was too stupid to come to school, that he should stay home. And she read him that note and told him that the note said he was too smart for school and that she would homeschool him because the other kids couldn't keep up with him. And when he died, he had 1,093 patents. He invented the light bulb. He invented, oh, the list goes on and on. And when his mother died is when he found that note. So back in 2017, my my half brother passed away in the Netherlands. I'm originally from the Netherlands, and so I went online to book a flight. It was $3,400. This was October, and I called the airlines. I said, "This is ridiculous. I was just there in June. I paid 2,400." I said, "I'm only going for 4 days for a funeral," and they said, "Oh, you're going for a funeral? We have a bereavement flight fare, $700." I said, "I'll take it." So I get on the plane. I'm in the very back of the plane. I'm in a window seat. I have two big burly guys sitting next to me. I can't put the tray down enough to rest my elbows so I can rest my head on my hands. My knees are crammed into the seat in front of me. I can't reach the window to rest my head. And the seat was so uncomfortable that even with my raincoat and blanket, I was shifting from cheek to cheek to ease the pain on my tailbone. And as you know, it's a night flight to Europe. I did not sleep a wink. And I was saying to myself, be grateful you got this flight. Be so happy that you only paid $700 for this flight. Beggars can't be choosers. And then I thought, wait a minute, that's my parents talking. That's not what I believe. And at that moment, I made a commitment. I was flying home first class, and I was not going to pay for an upgrade. And they were going to give me two gifts for doing that. Pretty bold commitment. So the whole time I was in the Netherlands for the funeral with family, I just kept visioning myself sitting first class, knowing in my heart it was a done deal. And so I get to the airport. I go up to the gate. I said to the lady, I want to go upgrade to first class. She goes, that's an extra 900 euros. I said, probably $1,000. I said, I'll go stand by. She goes, we don't do that anymore. I said, print me the wrong boarding pass. She goes, I love my job. What was I doing? I was trying to figure out how to get into that first class seat. So I thought, okay, if I'm not willing to invest in myself, how can I expect others to invest in me? So I hand her my credit card. She goes, I can't. She goes, I'm locked out. We're boarding. You'll have to do it on the plane. So I walk on the plane. I went to the purser. I said, I want to upgrade to first class. She pulls out the tablet. She assigns me the exact seat I had envisioned in my mind. If you've ever flown first class, you get a cubicle, you get headphones, noise canceling headphones, not earbuds. You get a toiletry bag with, mask and slippers and all kinds of stuff. The menu, you get two choices of appetizers, three choices of meals, two choices of desserts. All the alcohol is free. I don't drink, but still, and I'm sitting there and she comes for my credit card and she goes to swipe it and it's denied. And she asks for another credit card. She swipes it. It was denied. She asked if she could take it to the cockpit and they would call it in. I said, go ahead. Meanwhile, I'm texting my girlfriend and I go, find out why they're denying this card. And she texts back, she goes, I'm on the phone with the bank and they're not getting anything from the airlines. The flight attendant comes back, hands me my card and says, it's your lucky day. We can't seem to charge you. Remember, I was trying to figure out how. The universe did it for me. They broke the communication between the airlines and my bank. Remember the two gifts? KLM, they are not allowed to give you gifts, but they offer you a drink at the end of the flight, which is a bottle of Dutch gin. And the bottle is in the shape of an actual row house in Amsterdam. And the chimney is the bottle top. And so she comes by, she goes, would you like a drink? I said, yes, thank you. And I said, the man behind me said I could have his. And she looks, she goes, there's no one behind you. I just smiled. She goes, take another. You need to replace the how with a burning desire. The how will come to you when you need it to know. Determined imagination, thinking from the end, is the beginning of all miracles. Imagining oneself into the feeling of the wish fulfilled is the means by which a new state is entered. The future must become the present in the imagination of the one who would wisely and consciously create circumstances. We must translate vision into being, thinking of into thinking from. Success is 95% mindset and only 5% strategy. Yet we spend all our money on strategy and none on mindset. Your intuition is always for expansion. Your paradigms will hold you back. Ever since the beginning of time, there hasn't been one single day that the impossible hasn't happened. Impossible is the combination of I'm possible. Always remember that. Fortune favors the prepared mind. It's all about mindset. So here's a bonus. The common denominator of success. It says, the secret lies in forming the habit of doing things that failures don't like to do. Things failures don't like to do are the things that human beings, including successful people, naturally don't like to do, but they do them. Success is not to be achieved by following our natural likes and dislikes, nor by being guided by our natural preferences and prejudices. To be successful, you must be open to change. The man that does more than he's paid for will soon be paid for more than he does. As within, so without, as above, so below, as the universe, so the soul. Meaning, you have to change what's inside of you if you want the outside to change, because the outside is a mere reflection of your thoughts. This philosophical perspective outlines the idea that who we are on the inside will be created in the world around us. My mission is helping realtors shift their limiting beliefs and habitual behavior to achieve your greatest success. I'm talking to you. So don't be like these guys. Don't be too busy to learn how to change and get the results you want. Commit to finding out how you can be more, have more, do more. You owe it to yourself. Feel like there needs to be some kind of ta-da, but that's it.
Ta-da!
Thank you, Roger. That
Any
was great.
questions?
No, thanks, Roger.
You're welcome.